Okay, we're live. Good morning, everyone. Stephanie, Digital Commando, and welcome to another episode of the Digital Commando Show, episode 3, with the fantastic Debs Bamford, who's going to be talking to us about how to be confident in ourselves, right? So we're going to bring her on in just a second. Guys, please do remember to share this with people. We're on everything at the minute. We've had the addition for Series 2 of LinkedIn. So thank you very much, LinkedIn, for allowing us to stream directly to you guys as well. So guys, this is going to be a really fun show. Now, do drop your comments in on the side. Me and Des will keep an eye on. So if you've got any questions, then drop them in there and we'll get them answered for you. So without further ado, let's bring Debs into the room to introduce herself. Debs, how you doing?
Hello. I'm all good, Wes. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today. This is exciting. You've not been on before, have you?
No, I haven't, and I've always wanted to come on.
Oh,
so now I'm here. Yay!
It is awesome to have you on. Debs, for those that don't know you, they might have been living under a rock for a little while. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
I am Debs Bamford. I run Progressive Heads, and I help people who have been in emotionally and financially abusive relationships get past all their shizzle so they can step into their own superpowers. And I do that through coaching and training NLP courses.
Absolutely brilliant. So, like I said before, I'm just going to put the comments on the side, guys. We are going to keep an eye on these. We've already got the fantastic
the
Nagels on already, so that's awesome. Guys, if you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube watching us, drop your comments in and we'll make sure we'll probably mention you. We might even throw him on the screen. Let's throw Michael on the screen. Hi, Michael. So, Debs, today, obviously, we want to talk about confidence. Now, a lot of people have really dropped confidence, especially with what's going on at the moment. What are your tips? Give us some tips on what you take people through when they're not feeling so confident in themselves.
There's so many different things, Wes, to be fair, because everybody holds confidence. Yeah, it's massive. Everybody holds confidence differently. And before I go on to giving tips and everything, I want to say that confidence isn't like confidence for most people. They're confident in certain areas. So, for instance, you'll be well confident in all your digital stuff because you do it and you know you can do it. And I used to be dead confident getting on stage, dancing, singing, acting, all of those things. But meeting new people was a completely different kettle of fish, especially if I walked into a room full of people with suits on, or I walked into a room full of women. That's where my confidence used to go. And you quite often find me standing in a corner, not wanting to talk to anybody. And you've met me before in real life. And when I get to know somebody on a one-to-one, I'm quite happily able to chat. But back in the day,
we can't normally get you to shut up.
Yeah, quite often. And that was my thing. On a one-to-one, I was fine, but put me in a large group of people and I'd quite happily let everybody else chat and just sit in the background and come out with a one-liner now and again.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will have their confident areas that they feel great in, they can do, and they're quite happy to do. But then they've got other areas where they're less confident in. Do you have any areas that you're less confident in than others?
I suppose for me, I was quite lucky, obviously coming from the military background. Anybody who's ex-military and watching this will know, especially coming from the Royal Signal side where we were. As part of our natural career development, we go through kind of NCO training anyway, which will give you an element of confidence because you have to be confident in managing your teams. Now, I was very lucky. A lot of my work in the signals was working with really high-ranking top generals and majors and all these kind of top people in the military. Now, in the beginning, that was really, really scary because these guys are like gods. It's like, well, I can't talk to them. They're far too important for me to talk to. But over time, I think there was a saying that somebody said to me once, and it stuck with me for my entire life. And they just said, "Why are you afraid? Why are you afraid to talk to them? It's just a man." And I thought, oh.
Yes.
And that stuck with me really like a lot. So I don't feel there's not very many areas where I don't feel confident anymore. But I remember that was something that was very scary for me at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you're a very confident person. So we all have our little areas, though. So
Yeah.
I'll find yours someday. But for people who don't feel particularly confident in certain areas or across the board, there are certain things that you can do, and a little bit of background about it. When every single second we have loads of information coming into our heads through all of our senses. And what we do inside our head is we delete, distort, and generalize that information. So we delete things that are irrelevant. So you'll see marketing stuff, whereas I'll see stuff about psychology, because that's where our interests are. So we delete stuff. We also generalize things. And this is where the confidence stuff comes in. So we go, like I used to go, oh my God, people are in suits. Damn, I can't talk to them. Whereas actually, if we take your thing about it's just a man in a suit, then actually that generalization suits and can help with that situation. So we can actually add that to what we want to take on board rather than deleting it. So we delete, we generalize, and we distort things as well. And again, where we distort things, that's where we can take things out of proportion. Right. So we go, oh my God, it's a man in a suit. I can't possibly talk to them because they're of a higher rank, they're a manager, they're a this, they're a that, they're the other. Yeah. And we and then we diminish ourselves and say, oh no, I can't possibly be like that. So we go through these and our filters are also based on, there are different filters that we've got in our brain. So what we're left with is this internal picture, this internal representation of what we think the current situation's like. Mm-hmm. And so if our internal representation makes us go, oh my God, I'm really not confident in this situation, let's back off. Then what we can do is we can either change our state, mm-hmm, or we can change our physiology. Right. So a really simple thing to do is to change our physiology. And I call it the superhero pose. So I stand up. Yeah, that's the one. Stand up with your hands there. Imagine you've got a little cape flapping at the back, chin high. Yeah, I can do this. I can talk to whoever I like because I'm fabulous. And we can tell ourselves those things as well. And what happens is when we change our physiology, it helps change the internal representation, which then helps change the state and goes, oh, I'm slightly more confident than I was before. If we need extra bits than that, then often the stuff that I can do, like I can build states within people. So I've got a little anchor, a little stacked anchor on my ear. Mm-hmm. Whereas before this, when all my techie shizzle was going off and I'm going, oh my God, Chrome's not loaded, StreamYard's not loaded, panic situations. And then I come onto screen, I've got to be like, superhero pose, right? So I've got this little thing on my ear that's stacked with confidence. Mm-hmm. It's stacked with calmness, because quite often I can get a bit leery. So I need to take that down a bit. It's stacked with laughter, because it's good to have fun, right? It's stacked with motivation, so I can get motivated to do things. It's stacked with all sorts of things. And so I help people stack things onto their ear, and it's called an anchor.
I've used one of these before. I can't remember what I used it for. I think it was for anxiety. It can be used for anxiety, can't it, quite a lot. And my one was, it was my hands, just moving my hands together like this. I don't know.
Yes.
I can't remember who taught me this. And they were like, right, you need to feel like you're protected. And they found my animal. Like, which animal would you be when you feel like comfortable? It was really strange going through the whole process. And I was like, okay, animal. And I went down the superhero one, but probably not one that many would think. And they went like, what superhero have you? And I was like, Ninja Turtle. And they were like, yes. What? Like, that's a weird one to go for. And I was like, yeah, Ninja Turtle. And they said, oh, maybe that's because it's got a shell and you feel protected and you can go into the shell. And they said, for me, if I ever get that anxiety bit, I can just rub my fingers together and that's me going into the shell nice and protected. It was really clever.
Yeah, it is really clever. I like the bat think. My wings are like a shield of steel. That's if I feel like I need a bit of protection, I always go into bat think mode. And this is the thing, it's really helpful if we all have those things. So one of the things that I do, you know Black Panther, right? Have you seen the film Black Panther?
Yeah.
And what's the name of the woman who makes the outfits? I've got it in my training notes because I do this as a training. So she makes these outfits. So what I do and it starts off as a necklace. So what I do is I give everybody an imaginary necklace, which they put on, and then we stack an anchor at the button that's at the back of the necklace. So whenever they press the button, it goes whoosh, and they get their Black Panther costume on. So that they're filled with all these superpowers. So it's a really simple thing to do. In NLP, it's called an anchor. And this is like the ring of power that we do in NLP. So, and it's a really good thing to do. And you can do it yourself. It's dead simple. You know, if you're jumping around and having a great time, if I'm in that state and I think, like last time I was with you having a great time, I was like, yeah, I'm confident, I'm chatting to Steph, yeah, let's talk on the air a little bit. No, nobody will have known that I've just done that, but all I'm doing is building it back up again.
Yeah, I like state, and I know that I used to watch. I got like completely addicted to Tony Robbins years ago, and he talks about state so much.
Yes,
there was one example of state when he showed about the basketball teams. You may have heard this before. And he tested 3 different sets of, basically split the basketball team into 3 different groups. And one of them was they were practicing every single day, and they just literally go into the gym and they throw the ball in. Another one that just purely focused on, all they're going to do is imagine doing the shot, but every single time they did that shot, it went in every single time, and that was getting their mind in that state. And then there was another group that did a bit of both. And it was really surprising. You would normally think when they come back, who would be the group that did the best? Well, anybody would normally think, well, it's going to be the guys that are in the gym because they practiced every day, right? But it wasn't. It was very much the other guys that got themselves into a state of not just doing the shots every day, but every single shot being perfect.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. And it's a true story. So, I like that. It's really important to get yourself in that.
Yeah. And this is the difference when we come to sports. This is the difference between great sports people and people that kind of hit it sometimes and not others. So if you think about, I can say Andrew Murray, the tennis player.
Yeah. He's English when he's winning. He's Scottish when he's losing.
Yeah. So Andrew Murray, for example, if you think about how I'm a big tennis fan, if you think about how he used to play, it was very hit and miss, very talented guy, but very hit and miss. And then he started working with Ivan Lendl, who got him a psychologist. And the psychologist started to do a lot of visualization and getting into state stuff. And that's when Andrew Murray started winning and winning and winning, because he'd got that psychology state stuff behind him. So state's so important, because once you get in that confident state, once you get in that winning mindset, once you get into the state of being able to do anything that you want to do, then you'll just go for it.
So there's loads of ways to do this. For like first thing in the morning, we talk a lot about how to get in state and get your head in the game ready to get yourself started in the morning. Now, lots of people can use routines and fitness and things like that to kind of do a quick workout, get their kind of endorphins coming out, and obviously their blood pumping. What ways would you recommend for people, like quick fire things that they can do in the morning to get themselves in the correct state to move forward for the day?
A really simple one is when you get out of bed, rather than getting out of bed and going, oh God, it's a rubbish day outside, look at the rain, you can make a choice when you get up of how your day is going to be. And that's the difference between whether you have a good day or whether you stay stuck in that, oh God, today's going to be a rubbish day because the weather's bad. It's like a pathetic fallacy, that, you know. So if you get up and you go, today's going to be a great day, then you'll have a great day. You will. And you'll take on challenges on board. And also, if you're having one of those times where you're doubting yourself or whatever, then talk to people about it. Have a group of supportive friends who you can talk to that can say, well, you're good at this, you're good at that, you're good at the other, blah, blah, blah. And then you suddenly start to go, oh, yeah, I am pretty good at these things. I have a little list in my room. I've got a little list of all the things that I'm good at. I've got a little file on my computer that's got all my testimonials saved in. And if I'm having one of those days where I'm going, nah, I'm all right, I will look at those things and go, I'm bloody brilliant. And then I get on with it.
That's a good way to do it. And there's the other one. What's the other one? Another way of doing that is to do your, I call them a mantra, but it's not, is it? It's
affirmations.
Affirmations, yeah. Again, where you're kind of going, I am absolutely amazing. And then contradicting those things where you might not be confident. I am the most confident person on the planet. And things like that, yeah. Where you kind of put yourself in, again, you're putting yourself in the state, aren't you? By saying the opposite of sometimes how you feel. And I like about the group thing as well. I think it is very important to have like a group around you that you can rely on. Talking about the group, Higgs is one of mine.
Higgs! She's one of mine too. Hello, wonderful Higgsy. She's supposed to be travelling to her holidays. What's she doing on here?
She's not missing the fly again.
Let's not go there, Wes.
But hopefully she's on her way to holiday at some point. But yeah, Higgs is super like energetic in the mornings, and she's full of like, she's always happy, and she'll be like, I'll just wake up in the morning and I'll be like, oh yeah, well, I'm not sure I'm feeling it, and then I'll just open my phone and there'll be like a voice message from Higgs just going, have an amazing day, guys. Let's go and absolutely smash it. Woohoo! And I'm like, yeah, result.
Oh, see, that's amazing. That is amazing. And you know, Sarah's really good at that. She's really good at lifting you up and just making you go, yeah, we can do this, whatever. You know, and that's why she's such a good person. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you for being here while you're at the airport waiting for the desk to open.
Yeah, we've done the paperwork this time.
Yeah. So I'll come back to the affirmations a little bit, actually. You may not realise this, but 10 years ago, I didn't particularly love myself. Well, I didn't love myself, to be fair. And that's because I'd been in a emotionally abusive relationship where it was like, well, what do you love about me? Well, you're a nice person, but you're this and you're that and you're the other, and it builds up and you start feeling pretty rubbish about yourself. So I met a man in a pub, and I know this seems like a weird story, but I met a man in a pub, and at the time I loved self-development books. I'd done a lot of self-development. I listened to Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, people like that because of the business that I was part of. But what I was doing was going, I know I can be like this, but I'm not being like this. And I was beating myself up saying, I should be like this. I know the knowledge. I've got all the stuff, but I can't do it. If you say you can't do something, it's a limiting belief, right?
Yeah.
So I can't be this person that everybody wants me to be anymore. And so I started chatting to this pub and found he was into self-development as well, even though he wasn't in the kind of industry that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And we started talking, and he recommended a book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise L. Hay. In fact, it's still the end book on my on the back there, because I literally get it out a couple of times a week. Inside of it, there's lots of affirmations. And one of the first study things to do in the book was to look at yourself in the mirror and every day tell yourself that you love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So the first week I was going, I love you, 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 I love you. Well, that's not changed anything.
Yeah.
I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Like, because she says, do it 10 times. I love you, I love you, I love you. Nope, nothing. By week 2, I was like this. I love you, 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 I love you. Like in apps, like ugly crying.
Yeah.
By the 3rd week, because I thought I've got to stick with this. I knew Darren Hardy, compound effect. Let's stick with everything for at least 30 days. So, so 3rd week, oh my God, look at that ugly face as I'm crying. I love it. By the 4th week, I was going out. So I'd dress myself up and I'd put a bit of makeup on. Now, I very rarely do the makeup and dressing up things. So it is a novelty when this happens. And I caught myself in the mirror as I'd done everything. And I kind of went, you're looking good. Look at that face. Oh, don't you look beautiful today? and I was like, oh, look. And I had a great night. And the next morning, I went back to the mirror and fully expected, with the mascara like halfway down my face, that I'd go back into, oh my God, I'm ugly, instead of telling myself. And I caught myself even with panda eyes, and I just went, you are beautiful, you know. Oh. I love you. And I connected with my eyes, and I was like, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And then I carried on. And every day it was that connection with the eyes. I love you. I love you. I absolutely, look how beautiful you are. And I tell myself those things. So even if I work with a client and they phone up and say, I'm having these confidence issues, blah, 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 one of my tasks that I send them to do is to do this work in the mirror. And I say, you know, first 1 or 2 weeks, you might cry your eyes out when you're looking at yourself, because that's what I did. But you might not. You might fall in love with yourself a lot quicker than I did. But you've got to fall in love with yourself to then get to the next level. And until you love yourself totally, then how can you love someone else? How can you help someone else with that?
Absolutely. And it's really nice of you to share that with lots of people, because that's quite raw. A lot of people would not admit that, and I think it's really nice. And Debs, you are beautiful.
Thank you.
You're absolutely superb. And I've had it as well. I think for I can't remember when I did some counselling for a while. It was good, I think, to get your head in the game. You go to check up at the doctors. Why not do it with your head? So I went and did it with my head, and it was good. And the person that I was talking about, not psychologist or whatever they're called, was like, okay, so go to the mirror every day, same thing, but they won't just go to the mirror and smile at yourself. And I was like, can't do it. Still, I can't bloody do it. Like, everything else I can do affirmations, say whatever I want, but like this is where you said confidence. This is it. I can't smile at myself. I can't smile and look at myself on this camera. It's awful. Worst smile ever. But I just there's something wrong with me. But there's.
See, I think you've got a dead cute. I love your smile. I think it's lovely.
I smile with my eyes, but not with my mouth until I've had my teeth done. But
yeah, but you see, I don't see your teeth. I see I see how your lips kind of just go, and you'll go, and it's just lovely. I think you've got one of the most adorable smiles. So that, with you saying I can't do it, it's a limiting belief. Mm-hmm. So we need to smash through the limiting belief, and one way you can do it is doing like the person said to you, is actually connecting with yourself every day.
I know, I'm just trying to make it. We have to change conversations. I know everyone will be like looking for my feet now, but great one.
We'll get there with you. We'll get there.
We will. Now, limiting belief is a great one because, and again, I'm going to refer to a video that I watched years ago with Frank Kerr and Tony Robbins and another guy. I can never remember the other guy's name, but he was like, he's a killer. He's someone really famous. And they did this thing where it was all about this limited belief and as to kind of when you create a self-fulfilling prophecy with the limiting belief. Now, if anyone is like got a goal that they want to achieve, and if it's within business or in life, it doesn't really matter. and they go, right, okay, this is what I want to achieve, and this is what I want as an outcome, but they don't genuinely believe that it's possible. Then it goes into that kind of, there's like a circle. Tony Robbins does it great. If anybody wants the video, I'll share it. It is fantastic. It's one of my favorite YouTube videos. And he talks about obviously creating an action. So you have a belief at the beginning. You always will have a belief in what you're going to achieve. And you might go, right, well, this is what I want to do, but I don't think I can really do it. And if you don't believe you can do it, you're going to make some action, but you're not going to go full on into it. And if you do a little bit of action, you're going to get shitty results. And then when you get the shitty results, that's going to then go back round to, oh, well, my belief in the beginning was I told you I couldn't do it. And you proved to yourself that you can't do it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. But when that action is completely changed round, where you go, do you know what, this is what I want to achieve and I can do it 100%. There's no other object, like nothing else can happen. I 100% can do this. Then you make loads of actions, you get incredible results. And then again, it's another self-fulfilling prophecy where it goes up this time, where you're going, do you know what, I told myself I could do it and now I've proved it. And actually, there it is. And then you do it again and again and again. And I think this is why these limiting beliefs are so important to kind of get around as quickly as possible, because they can affect us in all different ways. So yeah, but that was a really good one to bring up. It's funny he said you met a guy in the pub. I made a note of that because we can't do that anymore, can we, really?
Well, it was 10 years ago. Things are a bit different then.
In 10 years' time, we'll be allowed to communicate with people.
Yeah.
Less than 2 meters away from them.
Probably. It's interesting that we're talking about limiting beliefs today, because it's one of the things that I'm recording at the moment for the guys that are on my practitioner course. Because one of the things that we do is we use submodalities to help people change the beliefs. You've disappeared. Where's your camera gone? Oh, there you are. Camera shizzle again. So can you remember when we just talked a little bit about when everything comes out of your head, you're left with an internal state, an internal representation, and the physiology reflects that? Yeah. So we will have an internal representation, a picture of how that image of our limiting belief is held in our heads. So what we do is we change that picture that's in our heads to something which is a universal belief. We go through a few stages before we get the universal belief. But a universal belief might be something like water is wet. Because not many people can argue that water isn't wet.
Dave's been having a debate with me all week about how the world is flat, because he's joined the flat Earth group. So, well,
this is why we couldn't use the universal belief the world is round or the world is spherical, because there are flat earthers. So there was one that we used to work that I used to use, which is the sun comes up every morning. Well, on a day like today, the sun doesn't come up every morning, people could argue. Or some could argue that the sun doesn't come up, it's just traveling around the world. Or, the world is just traveling around the sun and spinning. So there is some, when we come to something like a universal belief, it has to be something that the majority of people would believe, like water is wet. What? The earth is round. Spherical. If we're going to be pernickety, it's spherical. But
Sarah.
Yeah. But what we do is we map across to how we hold the picture in our head of water is wet. We take across all of the different submodalities. Submodalities are minuscule representations of modalities. So the modalities are what we hold visually, what we hear, auditory, and what we feel kinesthetically. And each of those has a extra different representation. So for instance, if I was to say to you, have you got a specific time where you had fun? Can you remember a time when you had fun, a specific time?
Wow. 2019, probably.
Just a specific time where you had fun. It doesn't matter how long ago it is. Can you?
That we used to tap us. That we had a great time.
Yeah, we did have a good time. So you have a picture of that in your head, right? And is it black and white or colour?
Colour.
Is it near or far?
Near. Helps out the table.
Is it bright or dim?
Bright, but it's nighttime.
Okay. Where's the location of it? Up, down, side, in front of you? Where?
I'm sat at the table with you guys. I'm like right there.
Okay. Are you looking through your own eyes, or are you looking at yourself in the picture?
Looking through my own eyes.
Is the picture focused or defocused?
Focus.
Is the focus changing or steady?
I'd say steady.
What's the size of the picture?
The size of this screen, probably.
Like panoramic, is it?
Yeah, I can see like that.
Or this size. See, hands are a good thing. Hands often tell me the size. It's a little analogical marker. Is it got a frame around it, or is it panoramic?
Panoramic.
Is it a movie or still?
Movie.
Good. Okay. Wes, can you smell popcorn?
Yeah.
See, you're searching for the popcorn, whatever. That's just a little clean. So,
oh, you say that, yeah, I can. Wow, and I can't smell anything. I had COVID, but now I can imagine popcorn.
That's good. So that demonstration just shows that you've got an internal representation of a particular fun time that we had together, and it's broken down into different sections. Now, I could probably ask you about the sounds and the locations of the sounds. I could probably ask you about the feelings that you had about that night and whether there was a location about it. All of those have got different subsections.
Yeah.
And so what we can do in NLP is we can take those different subsections and we can change them. So, for instance, if I was working with somebody who was confident, I could ask them if there was a time when they were confident before, go back to that time. And then a time when they're not confident, and we can actually, usually somebody's looking at themselves in the picture when they're not confident, they're dissociated from it. So I get them to step back into the picture to look through their own eyes so that they see how confident they are. So that's a quick thing to do, step back into the picture. If something rubbish has happened to you, and you're associated, you're looking through your own eyes, step out of the picture and look at yourself. That's a really simple way to help you not be attached to the emotions that go on with something like that. And another thing is to push things further away. So if something's here and it's annoying you, shoot it across the other side of the room or down the street, and it's not annoying you anymore.
Oh, that's clever.
So you know now, because you've gone through that thing of little tiny little things that you've recognised in a fun time picture. There'll be other pictures that you have that we can change and alter so that they're either more compelling to you, or you're dissociating yourself from it because you don't want to be with it anymore.
Well, I'm going to have a think about that later. So what do I smell if I'm not confident?
If you're...
Well, I'm not confident in the situation. I'm not smelling popcorn, though.
No, it's not about the popcorn. All that is, it's just getting rid of the picture. It's what's called a break state.
Ah, that's good. That's really
because if I'd said to you, remember a time where you're feeling pretty low, and got you into that state and enlisted all those different submodalities, then by the end of that, you're still like, So by going, what are you having for tea tonight? Then it helps you think, oh, I'm having whatever, and gets you out of that low picture.
Dinner or tea?
Tea. Dinner, sorry.
Dinner, isn't it?
That's the Yorkshire thing. It's tea in Yorkshire.
Drink tea in Yorkshire. Don't get Debs. Dave's a Northerner, and I have this conversation with him every single day. But no, it's good. I always got taught, when I was working in Dubai, actually, and it was a massive thing over there because we've all gone out there initially we were all quite poor, so we didn't have any money. We'd gone over maybe with some savings, and we'd gone to be financial advisors. We wanted to go make silly money and take over the world. Very Wolf of Wall Street stuff. So we'd gone over there and we wanted to make all this money. And like, yeah, cool, we can do that. And we're all suited and booted, and we're all ready to go out and start selling finance. You know anything about it, but you don't need to over there because it's unregulated market. Don't tell anybody. Which is why I don't do the job anymore. I agree with that at all. But over there, they always used to say, right, 100% fake it till you make it. And I didn't get it until years later, because at the time I just thought it was a bit of an ego thing. And I was like, oh, really? This is a bit, it's all about faking it. It's all plastic. And actually, I disliked half of Dubai, mainly the British lot that were all down the marina, because it was all so fake and plastic, and everyone was pretending to be these people that they weren't. And I didn't really like that. And I went and lived on the other side of Dubai, where I did like it. But it was only years later I got it and was like, hold on a minute. When you think about that person that you want to be, why try and work your way there when you can just be that person? Act the person that you would like to be. If you would like to be confident, you would like to be successful, step one is to probably start acting like it. And then, well, they were very focused on dress like it as well. Obviously, be that person when you look at yourself and you want to be the big CEO director with multi-million pounds, and you want to wear a nice suit and drive a nice car. Well, drive a nice suit, drive a nice car, and then do the work to support it. And it was only years later that actually made sense to me, because in the beginning it seemed very, very fake. But there's a place for it, I think. What do you reckon?
I agree with you. I was the same as you when I first heard the fake it till you make it stuff. I'd heard it from people who I decided that they were ego people, people who were talking from ego. And then I realized when I started doing NLP, we do something called use the presuppositions of NLP. And although we don't say fake it till you make it, the whole theory is to act like the person that you want to be, so that you get to that place. And it is the same thing. If you stand in a particular way, if you speak in a particular way, if you hold yourself in a particular way, and you start to challenge some of your beliefs that you've got about can't do something, if you start to challenge it and start to do things, then strangely, things start to change for you. And it's not strange. It's just actually getting into that mindset of doing it. It's changing that internal rep. It's changing the physiology. It's changing your state. And when you change all of those things, the output, the behavior that is output, changes with it.
Absolutely. And I think this is what I think. I remember coming back from Dubai and I was so different. It was weird because it actually started to make sense after, and I started being the person I wanted to be. I was a nicer person, because actually being nice to other people and trying to do things for people was a big part of who I was. And I was like, do you know what? I shouldn't wait for when I've got more money to start helping people. Now to start helping people with the little bit of money that you may have, and to do a little bit rather than do nothing and wait for later, and doing things like that, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I came back and I just felt completely refreshed. I felt like a complete new person, and I liked me more than I did before. So I think there's a lot of the military people coming from the background that we have, and especially we've been in conflict and stuff like that. We generally feel quite bad, so we're actually nice people. So actually focus on the good bits and what you can do for others as well. I think we talked about in the last series about pay it forward. I think we had a Thursday show dedicated to all about that pay it forward kind of mentality and style, which I think is so good, especially with everything that's going on now. Nobody could have foreseen all this happening. But it is very much, I think now is the best time to pay it forward. We've got a client that yesterday announced, obviously there's all this stuff about the school meals. I haven't got kids, so I don't really understand much of it. But I know that, I think from my understanding, the government aren't giving money or credit towards people's school meals. They've decided that they're going to do it anyway. So as they own a pub, so they've said if anybody is struggling, send them a direct message and they'll keep it all private, and then come and pick up a hot lunch or dinner for the kids. And same with the, like for anybody that goes to eat in the pub, for every child meal that's bought with an adult meal, they're going to give £5 to there's a charity. I should really remember the name of it. Fair Share, is it? Well, they give £5 towards that charity, so that can support somebody that may not have enough money to afford a hot meal. So I think doing those sorts of things is absolutely great. And well, I'll just tell her the name. It's my show, unfortunately. The Red Lion. Great pub. Go there.
Great pub.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, you see, the pay it forward thing. Once you start to understand the pay it forward thing, when you pay things forward, great things follow, because you're projecting goodness, kindness, caringness. So you'll get that back. So and I know there's quite a few pubs in Sheffield doing it, even though Sheffield City Council have chosen to provide free school meals anyway. There are still, we know that because of there are people that have lost jobs, and there are people that have lost their businesses. There are people that probably aren't even on the free school meals list that are really struggling to feed the kids. So there are pubs that are saying, no questions asked, just come, we're making up packed lunches, da da da. But the great thing is that pub will then get lots more people visiting it to eat in it, which feeds the money back into the pub, which is funding the feeding of people that can't afford it.
Yeah.
And so it's a win-win situation. And again, in NLP, we strive for win-win situations. You know, if one side is benefiting more than the other, it's not a win-win situation. So if we can gain something when we get that, that's where we want to be.
Absolutely. So Des, we've got a little bit of time, not long. Can you tell us a bit about some of the people, not obviously indirectly, but the kind of people that you've worked with, maybe the issues that they've had, and then what you've done to help overcome them?
So I work with people who've been in abusive relationships, and most people who've been in abusive relationships, we have this back narrative, and I say have because I know that some things come up for me now and again, and I go, oh, must address that's still not gone, or I've not worked on that before, that needs to be done. But we have this narrative, and it's usually, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of whatever, questioning people who are supportive of us. And I will bring in, like, before we started today, you were going to talk, the thing was going to be about imposter syndrome, and I went, no, don't do that. I don't know enough about imposter syndrome. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I don't like to label things. And when I actually started to look at what imposter syndrome is and started reading a couple of articles, I would have thought it was that self-doubt, questioning yourself, all of that kind of stuff. And it's not really. But a lot of people who say they've got imposter syndrome would label those kind of thoughts as imposter syndrome. And it's not, it's much more, there's much more jeopardy in it. The reason I don't label things is because sometimes when we label things, we say, oh, well, I can't do something because I've got X, Y, Z. Yeah. I can't get myself in this situation because I have anxiety. I can't do this because I have panic attacks. And when we start to label things, it actually compounds the issue that we have, because we then start avoiding situations and avoiding doing certain things because we have that label.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the people that I work with have usually been in past abusive relationships, but they have things like self-doubt. They don't particularly believe in themselves. So what I do is I help them change their beliefs about themselves. I help them change their state so that they feel better about themselves. I use something called timeline therapy within what I do as well. And timeline therapy helps get rid of unwarranted anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt. So you can still just keep the warranted stuff. You know, if somebody close to you dies, you feel sad, that's fine, because that's warranted. But if you're feeling sad a year later, that's unwarranted, really, because at that point it's about having good memories about that person.
Yeah.
You know, yes, it's sad that they've died, but if we hold on to that sadness, it can affect us and we can get dis-ease. And I don't say disease, dis-ease, because you're not at ease with yourself. This dis-ease is where you're not at ease with yourself. So if we hold on to those things, then actually it can affect our health, our physical health, as much as our mental health. So what I help people do is to help clean all of that stuff up. We also work with limiting beliefs and anxiety and phobias and all sorts of things on the timeline. The timeline's brilliant. I love timeline therapy. It's so good. You literally feel like the whole world's been lifted off your shoulders when you've had timeline therapy.
That's really good. Do you work actually, obviously, because we do get a lot of followers that and viewers that are ex-military and things like that. So lots of suffer from PTSD and things like that. Do you work with people that suffer from PTSD and that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'll relate it to military, actually, because I do have family and friends who've been in military. I remember a friend of mine coming back from the Iraqi war in 91 or 92 or something and had terrible tunnel vision and trauma and stuff from that. So I remember the kind of things they went through. And when you've been abused, whether it's physical abuse or mental abuse, there's usually some trauma surrounding that. And we all hold our traumas differently, but there is a way within using a mixture of timeline therapy and NLP that you can help remove the trauma. And then there's other work to do around it, so that you, like anchoring work and all sorts of things, to help you if certain things come up and there's a trigger. So whatever the trigger is will be different for everyone. I had a friend once who we were in a bar that we used to go to all the time, and because it was Halloween, they decorated it, and there were those, you know, the army nets. They'd put army nets up on the ceiling, and bless him, Steve walked in and the music was loud and the lights were flashing, and all of a sudden he just had a complete and utter meltdown. And I helped him get out of there because he was in freeze mode.
Yeah.
So whenever he had the PTSD, he went into freeze mode. Helped get him out of there. But what had set it off? It wasn't the lights or the music, which usually that was the thing that triggered him. It was actually seeing the army nets, and that triggered a memory which set it off for him. For, you know, he was 30 years in the army, so
yeah,
he'd seen a lot.
Yeah.
So
I work with a lot of guys. Obviously, we work quite closely with the veterans and the British Legion and things like that. So we meet quite regularly. Lots of my friends have got PTSD and things like that, and it is strange how it reacts. And I think I had like a minor bit of it as well, and especially when you get back from a conflict zone as well. Even little things like, I remember queuing up for like Tesco, and you sit there in your queue and you get to the front of the queue, and then somebody's sat there and they've gone, okay, cool, do you want a hand with your shopping? This is after it's all been scanned. I was furious. And all this food and everything is sat there. They haven't even started bagging it up yet. Then they start bagging it up, and then they go, okay, would you like to pay now? And they go, yeah. And then they go in their pocket for their wallet. And I'm thinking, you know that's going to happen. You should be ready. Because when we're on ops and stuff, we're just switched on all the time. You're always thinking about the next thing.
yeah.
So we're like fully prepared. So to sit there in a queue and do that, it just like triggers you. You're like so angry. But it's weird. So some of the things I remember, I think I got triggered, jumped on the floor because a bloom popped across the road from me.
Yeah.
And I was like, but you were still in that state. I'd only been back a few weeks. So it is very strange how it affects different people. I've got lots of friends that can't spend time in big crowds now. Can't sit in places in a restaurant because you can't see behind you and you feel uncomfortable. So
yeah, I know a lot of my friends who've been in military who have to face the door.
Yeah.
Or don't like it with the back to the window or whatever.
Yeah.
Because So it's got to be that neutral place where there's 360-degree sight or whatever, you know. So I get that. I get that. But with timeline therapy, a lot of those things you see that it's related to fear.
Mm-hmm.
The reaction that you have is anger.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a lot of sadness around it because obviously you guys have been in areas where there's been lots of death. So there's a lot of sadness surrounding that, which even though you're doing a particular job and that's your thing, and you train to become blinkered to that. Some people still hold on to that. So with all those things that are going off, with timeline therapy, we can help change that picture: anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt. And by removing all the unwarranted stuff, what like I call shizzle, remove the unwarranted shizzle, then you're left with just things that are warranted. You know, it's okay if a balloon pops and you go, "Wah!" But if it pops and then you have a meltdown, that's not okay.
Yeah.
That means something needs to be worked on, right? So I think the best thing is for people to know that they have certain things and to get help. Some people, talking therapy works really well. For me, it's less about content than about context. So I listen to the words in between, like I listen to a can't or a should or a word that limits or sends out guilt to people. If we should all over ourselves, then we're just constantly feeling guilty about things.
Yeah.
So they're the things that I look for and work with, and that's why every individual is completely and utterly different how I deal with them. Because, you know, if I'm working with you and removing your anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt, we'll go through a similar process, but the outcome will be completely different for you as to when I was worked on with anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt.
Yeah.
And like having an MOT, you know, you were saying earlier on about having a MOT of the brain.
Yeah.
Like we have an MOT on a car. We do that yearly. So with the guys that come and see me, I say every year, come back for an MOT. Because in a year, other shit will have occurred, other shizzle will have happened.
Yeah.
So we need to just finely tune things again. So every year I have timeline therapy and NLP with a coach friend of mine. And I do the same for her.
I think it's really good, and if it negates those excuses and stops people from not doing things, stops people from not doing things, is it double negative? So if people are using it as an excuse, and again, I've got friends with PTSD, ADHD, all that sort of stuff, and they go, I can't do that because I've got this. And it's like, no, you can, but you're just not going to do it because, again, it's that fear, isn't it? So if they can overcome that and they can get into those situations which may open up doors for them or just make them enjoy life a bit better, then absolutely fantastic.
Somebody has to want to do it though, Wes. That's the key. Yeah. Someone's got to want to change. Somebody's got to want to get rid of that stuff. And quite often, if they want to hold on to it, they've got secondary gain somewhere. Yeah. So say they've got PTSD and somebody's looking after them, and actually that kindness, that care, that consideration is so warm and lovely that they think if they get rid of the PTSD that the kindness and caring will stop. Then they'll go, oh no, I don't want to get rid of that because this secondary gain stuff is too big for me to want to get rid of. So some people do have, that's an example, but some people do have secondary gain as to why they want to stay stuck with something.
Yeah, I've got a few friends with male we've all got them. Everyone's got that friend.
Yeah.
If you haven't, it's you. Debs, we have ran out of time for the day, but thank you so much. I could talk to you all day. We've been on for like 54 minutes. It feels like 5.
You know, we normally like blah, 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 anyway, so standard.
Do this every day. Guys, if you want us to do an all-day one, then feel free to give us a shout. We'll do it. Why not? If anybody wants to get in touch with you or wants some help, how can they get in touch with you?
Best thing to do is to book a Bamf call. Do you know what Bamf stands for?
No, tell us.
Well, other than it being the first 4 letters of my name, but it also stands for badass motherfucker. Am I allowed to am I allowed to swear like that?
Yeah, of course you are.
Excellent. So book a Banff call with me, and then we can talk about what it is that you want to do, whether you want to come on a course or you've got something that you think, oh, we've talked about PTSD and I've got that, or whatever. Then I'll put the link in for the Banff call in the comments later.
I just tried to put it in. I was going to try and put it in now for you.
I'd have to send it to you because I have no idea what to do here.
If you want that link, let us know. We will drop it in the comments. If you guys are on Facebook and LinkedIn, we'll make sure you've got that. I'll find a way to get on YouTube. So we will do that later on for you. Debs, it's been amazing. Thank you very much for joining me. You've been an excellent guest.
Thank you, Bella.
Guys, we are back on Thursday, 11 o'clock, again with Katie, who's a digital marketer. Very brave, right? And then next week, we've got a really fun week. We've got ex-military week. So, and we're talking about ex-military today. We've got some ex-military business owners and freelancers jumping on next week to give us an insight into their careers as well. So, really, really exciting stuff coming up. But for today, that is it. Once again, thank you to Deb. Guys, everybody who's watched, thank you for joining, and please do make sure you share this with anybody you know that you think would benefit from watching this show. That is it. So, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, that's it for today. See you on Thursday. Peace out.